Hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. This week, we are excited to bring you the Kentucky political news you need, including Trump's death threat to Mitch, Charles Booker's solo debate on KET, and Rand's bullshit dog whistle attack ad. Then we're going to be very excited to check in with two great candidates for Kentucky's House Districts 8 and 9 over in Western Kentucky, Pam Dossett and Bianca Crockram. That's going to be in our campaign corner. Then we're going to be interviewing Barbara Hadley Smith, the leader of Together Frankfort, about how her organization is focusing on November 8th. And then we're going to close out with our call to action. All of that important content in just about an hour. But first, are you ready to help turn Kentucky purple? Team, in just over a month, like 33 days from now, voters from across Kentucky will pick between Rand Paul and Charles Booker, between a roadblock to progress and an agent of hope and change. We'll pick whether or not 9-year-old rape victims will have to give birth. We'll decide what type of state house will be in Frankfort to work with or against Governor Andy Beshear. These are big decisions, and we need your voice and your vote. If you want a Commonwealth that works for all of us, join Progress Kentucky. Make a donation to our efforts to turn our Commonwealth purple. In the next 33 days, we'd like to go bigger on social media. We'd like to launch a texting campaign to engage voters and make sure folks have the information they need to make it to the polls and help protect our democracy. And you can help. Head to our Act Blue account, kick in a little cheddar. It doesn't have to be a ton, 5, 10, 50 bucks. Every $100 donation will get you a Progress Kentucky hat or a Patriotic Millionaires book. So your call, if you want a hat or a book, just make the donation. We'll ask you immediately, what do you want? And we'll send it out to you. We're not a huge machine of political influence, but we are a scrappy grassroots group that thinks it's important to share critical information with voters, and especially right now in the kind of final month to go. So really excited to check in with our co-host right now. Got some wonderful folks excited to talk to you. And of course, we want to hear what their protest sign says, because we're not just some talking head news show, but of course we are a digital demonstration for a more progressive Kentucky. And the thing about a demonstration is you got to, bring a sign, or else you're just standing around with your hands in your pockets. And there's no action in that, no activity in that, no energy in that. So, all right. So we'll check in. We'll hear who you are, where you are, and what does your protest sign say today? And of course, you on the internet, you can put that in the comments and we can share that out. Let's see if you got something clever or not clever, something just powerful. And let's hear what you're protesting. There's just so much. There's so much to protest. All right. So I'm Aaron. I'm coming from Childsburg, which is, of course, a deed restricted community in Lexington, e.g. no fun. And I can't actually put up my yard sign just yet because there's very clear rules about when political signs can be put up. So I have to wait till to the 8th of October to put my signs up. I've got them ready to go, though. But the sign that I would be holding today says Rand smells desperate. So I think all the stuff he's doing right now smells of desperation. All right, checking in with co-host Kimberly. Are you there?
Yes, I am, Aaron, and hello to our Progress Kentucky family tonight. I'm so excited to be here and not in pain. And my protest sign says today something that's very near and dear to my heart as I see things going down, that optimism wins the day. That's my protest sign. Optimism runs the day.
Nice. That's a good, hopeful, positive message. That's so nice. I love that Kimberly always brings the positivity to my, clearly unchecked cynicism. All right. So now let's check in with our third host, and let's hear whether he's positive, he's negative. Where is he falling on that spectrum of hope and change, the cynicism, and I guess, what's the word? I don't know. Cynicism, period. So we got Willie with us today. Willie, are you there?
I am here.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure.
So what's your sign say?
Well, I'm joining you from Mount Sterling, which has evidently no leash laws and no sign laws. Got all my signs in the front yard. I don't have this on a sign, but I want it to say, "You are a part of this," in all caps. I think that's hopeful, or maybe I'm stepping outside the binary. But I've been thinking a lot about how we used to teach bullying to students, and there are actually 7 people you can be in any bullying scenario. And what we really wanted students to know is you can't pretend as if you're not a part of this. If you're witnessing it, then you're a witness. If you're helping promote it, then you're a promoter. So you can't be silent when these things are happening and think that you're not a part of this. You're a part of this, and your silence is helping or it's hurting.
Nice. That's wonderful. That's a great way to think about it. So yeah, you're a part of this being this crazy state of Kentucky, our Commonwealth, our political system that we're having a conversation about, and all the things we could do to make it a bit better, which I hope we do. And I think we've got some stories to share with you that can, help inform what's going on right now and how we're going to spend our final month. So let's head into news of the week. We got a couple stories we're going to bring you. Maybe we got a couple more. I don't know if Kimberly's got anything teed up, but I do know that the big story this week was, of course, over on KET yesterday. Our friend Charles Booker, who of course has been on the show, he is running against Rand Paul, and Rand Paul would not show up. Charles did I think a great job hitting on some really important issues, and Rand instead just attacked Charles with a horrible ad, and that's of course what Rand does. He plays to the hits of the Republican Party. Whatever scary thing he can run on, he's going to do that. So this one is trying to not effectively linking, but it's scary voiceover and scary images, so probably worked for some of his audience. But linking Charles Booker to violence and political violence and other violence, and Rand Paul got beat up, so beat up by his neighbor. So somehow we got to blame Charles Booker for that. It was a pathetic ad. If you haven't seen it, you don't need to, and certainly don't share it on Facebook or Twitter, even in an outrage share. That's like kind of 101 is don't give them more views. So if you want to take a screenshot, do that, fine, but do not give them more views of their garbage. But what I think you should share is some of Charles versus the empty chair, right? Charles versus the Rand cutout. They didn't have a Rand cutout, but there was an empty chair there. There was I think even a water glass waiting for Rand Paul to come and parch his quench his parched thirst. So really some great stuff. I don't know what other folks saw, but I know that he hit it out of the park on the issue of the election, or what we're trying to make the issue of the election, which is reproductive freedom in Kentucky. Nate, do you think we can pull up that clip?
I fully believe that women and the people of Kentucky deserve agency to make decisions over their bodies. And we should not have government operating as a big brother, surveilling in our homes, certainly intruding in the uterus of the people of Kentucky to say that this person should not get health care. Now, this is very personal. I've traveled across the Commonwealth talking to a lot of folks who don't normally tell their stories. And I've heard accounts of young girls who were raped by their brother, even impregnated. And the pregnancy was threatening to kill them, a young child. The legislation that Rand Paul is supporting would say that that child's life doesn't matter, even if she was going to die. The government should not be making that decision. Regardless of what your personal belief is, I was raised in a Pentecostal church. I understand how important this issue is. The government should not be mandating what health care some people get over others.
Boom. Yeah, I don't know. That's an issue he hit well out of the park. Did folks see any of the clips or see the whole thing? Any thoughts on that that KET moment there? Kimberly, you're muted.
After all this time, I should know better. Actually, I wanted to say that what these people in Frankfurt don't seem to understand is that you have a younger generation that's coming up and they're not standing for it. Even my own daughter, who's in the military in the Air Force, said to me, Mom, when I retire, which is just in about 4 or 5 years, she said, I may not retire in America because I can't understand what we are doing. I've talked to many of our youth, even some middle-aged folks, and even some seniors. And, just the majority of the country says, okay, keep abortion legal. There's an incident in Arizona, a 14-year-old young lady that has to take a life-giving medication. It's for a condition that she has, but also a lot of times they give people this particular medication to induce miscarriage, abortion, whatever you want to call it. And the government is saying, no, that 14-year-old's life, who is not pregnant even, but cannot get that medication. But there was a physician that was able to get with Walgreens and get that medication filled. But it's happening to us here in Kentucky. How much are we going to allow them to rule our lives? This is fascism and dictatorship in its highest degree than what we've ever seen in America. And we talk and talk and talk, but what are we doing collectively as a community of us just being Kentuckians to stop this onslaught of what's going on in our state?
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully we're showing up on November 8th, right? Hopefully that's what we're doing to stop that onslaught. I don't know. Willie, what did you watch any of it? What did you think about Charles v. Rand?
I think about this idea of creating language, and this is exactly what the opposition is terrified of. Because what we have in a lot of the fights are progressives, Democrats trying to maintain some level of decency, and Republicans introducing asinine and frankly insane things into the discussion. And how do we counter that? We're not thinking to counter the idea that Charles Booker is violent because we don't feel the need for that language. But the problem is we have to start talking. That's one thought. And the other thought is I absolutely agree. I keep hearing stories. Frankly, as the big gay teacher, even though I'm no longer a teacher, I cannot, for lots of reasons, tell you how many girls have already had to reach out to me and say, can you help me find someone who can transport me? Can you help me find someone who can get me to a place where this could be a possibility for me to have an abortion? It's sad. And another aspect of language is this is supposedly the party of small government. An editor of something that I wrote last year said, why are you calling Republicans big government? I don't think they would call themselves that. And I wanted to say, of course they wouldn't. That's why I want to call them that. So I think we've got to step up our game of creating that language and making that language be a bit more diffused. Part of that is anticipating what insanity is coming. And I can't anticipate this stuff.
No, and I wouldn't want to be able to, right? Like, I wouldn't like to predict Rand's playbook for the final month, right? He's got a ton of money, and there's going to be more and more attacks, scary, scary things that you need to be afraid of as a voter. And it's like, oh my God, Charles Booker showed up at the demonstrations for Breonna Taylor, so clearly he endorses everything that happened at every single demonstration. And it's that I love that idea of like this, and he did it in that clip, like the big government telling you what to do with your body. It's like, hey, you guys like freedom, we like freedom too. The freedom that we are about, though, is the freedom to be able to vote safely, freedom for women to be able to make their own reproductive healthcare decisions. And then in 2021, which I think is the kind of most recent data they've got, right, in Kentucky there were 14 abortions to kids under 15, right? So like that is life changing. If we're saying these kids are going to have to go on and be parents and whatever happened there, that's illegal, right? So they were raped, and the party of the party of life apparently is willing to ruin these kids' lives, right? More than happy to do that, and it's just astounding. I think this is a big issue. I think it's going to be motivating, and as we talked with Tamara Wider from Planned Parenthood a few weeks back, we just underscoring that, look, if you show up for Amendment 2 to vote against it, awesome, please do. But it's also connected to what's the legislature going to do in response. And we've got the court case determining whether or not the trigger bill ban goes into effect. They're like, well, we'll wait until November 8th to know what the kind of sense of the state is on terms and some of these things, right? So it is absolutely the determining factor as to whether abortions are going to be able to continue in this Commonwealth. And we gotta turn out. Other stuff on the attacks on Charles Booker. It's very interesting people that he chose. It's a 3-minute saga. I don't think it's being run in the full 3 minutes on TV, but his attack on Charles Booker, where his threatening violence and whatever, and it was really horrible to hear him talk about the debate and why he begged off of it. One of the things, he elevated that concern about violence, implying that he's scared to be in the same place as Charles Booker because he's some dangerous, crazy person. It's going to attack Rand Paul just like his neighbor, right? It's just laughable, but so transparent, but probably working with some members of the electorate, right? But the fact that he pointed out Coleman Eldridge, who's of course family man. We've all seen Coleman's kids, right? If you're at all engaged with Democratic politics in Kentucky, you've seen Coleman's kids. He's the KDP chair, Kentucky Democratic Party chair. He's a man of God, but he curses from time to time. So the fact that he kind of cursed, that was highlighted in the video as this is dangerous rhetoric when he stood up for trans kids. Coleman stood up for trans kids. And said, Republican Party is going to go after them. Well, they're going to F around and find out, right? We're not going to go beat up the Republicans, dummies. What we're going to do is stand up for their rights. And that was, I thought, hilarious that he went there. And that was, highlighted as an example of the violent rhetoric of the left. So Coleman did not back down. He responded with a bit more colorful language, which I thought was wonderful. And I think we've got that as well. So, yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Violence from the right versus the left? What's going on here?
From a party that appears to ignore all sociological studies about how group dynamics work, they appear to understand very clearly how racist tropes work. That's my first thought. What is a more classically racist thing than to accuse your Black opponent of being so violent you're afraid to be in the room with them? It's perhaps laughable, but it's also just so disgustingly and vilely racist that boggles the mind that in 2022 it's okay.
Yeah, Kimberly, what do you think?
I wish we had that clip from some time ago. I told you all this was going to happen. I told you it was going to happen. Remember when I brought up about how Mitch McConnell's, what they call dark ops, that's the group of people you'll never really know who they are, and they'll put out the rhetoric, okay, of something to assassinate the character totally of the opponent. So I said this a long time ago. Charles Booker was very instrumental right here in Louisville, Kentucky, where he's from, and where I am tonight. He was very instrumental in the Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and what we call the Black Lives Matter movement, not to be mistaken with the Black Lives Matter organization, okay? And he had his fist up in the air, Everybody knows what this means. The Black Panthers used to do it. It means Black power, okay? And it's not the same as the Ku Klux Klan chanting white power. It's just that Black folks need to know that they can empower themselves on a lot of things. So I told you this was going to happen. I told you that governor in Minnesota, I can't remember, I think it was Massachusetts, I think. And, you know, he was going around about his opponent or whatever that was African-American, saying that now they're going to come in your towns and impregnate your white daughters. It's the same thing right here. And as a Black woman, I've had it up to here, okay? I've had it up to here. I knew it was going to happen. Now you see, listen to me. And it's not going to get any better before Election Day. So we have to make sure that we are informing everyone we can in any way that we can that Charles Booker is not a man of violence just because he's Black.
Yeah. I don't like how do you even, I mean, good God, that we have to even go there, right? Is just staggering. You know, I'll be honest, I don't know that our message is going to get those people, but I think whatever we can do to help spread the word, right? That Charles Booker, man of faith, family man, you know, loves his daughters so clearly, right? And that guy is, you know, he's not looking to defund the police. Actually, Rand Paul voted defund the police because in the American Rescue Plan, there's a ton of money to support first responders, including the police. Rand Paul, of course, votes against anything that spends federal money. So who's voted to defund the police federally? That is absolutely Rand Paul. That is not Charles Booker. Can
I say just one more thing about that very quickly?
Yeah.
I just like to say this, that a friend of mine last night, we were in discussion about some things, and I've been asked to head up DE&I for my job, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay. And just understanding something. She could not understand. Well, you know, that was a long time ago, Kim. You know, you need to get over it. And I said, you know what? Why is it that this race is the only race that gets told that? Nobody ever tells anybody, forget the Holocaust, forget Pearl Harbor, forget this, forget that. And I said, no. It has been scientifically proven that trauma can travel in your DNA and be hereditary from generation to generation. And I say all that to say that here in Kentucky, we have a big racism problem. Mm-hmm. Even people overseas think of Kentucky, not anymore about Churchill Downs, not anymore about U of K or U of L. It's all about, oh, they racist down there. That's real deep South. They act like Alabama and Mississippi down there. And you know what? Maybe other people can't see it or feel it, but I know people and I know myself. This is it's excruciatingly painful to live in a state so racist, and that people outside of two major counties, which is Jefferson and Fayette, you don't know which way they're going to turn, and it's normally red, and that they would vote against things that could empower them, their family, their grandkids, in order to keep their white supremacy. So, you know, I just look forward to more of this rhetoric, more of these evil, vile lies as the campaigns move forward. Just don't be surprised, ladies and gentlemen. Buckle up. We've just taken off on the ride.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, Kimberly.
Yeah. And if I can have quickly, Pew did release some numbers just last year. So I think it's 98% 98% of African Americans say they experience racism on an almost daily basis. And so the response I always have to people who say that it's over is, okay, so either you're saying that 96% of Black people are lying about their experience with racism, which would make you racist, or you're saying they don't understand racism when they see it, which would make you racist, or they're telling the truth, which means there is racism. So there's no way out of this. It is obviously true. And in 2021, I was told by not one, not two, but 3 administrators that we were to teach nothing racial. We live in a racist state and in a racist time, and we have to talk about it.
Your administrators, like
in the
Montgomery County,
in Montgomery County, 3,
which of course we know.
Yeah.
Some people know. I didn't know. So, I was told. Denise told me. Mount Sterling was a sundown town, right? Like there was a long period where in Mount Sterling, Black people had to get out of town before sundown, or else violence would occur. So the idea that you can't teach about racism in a formerly sundown town, like I can see why you are where you are right now.
I know that we only have
racial. What does racial mean?
Let me say this. We got about 1 minute. Okay. And this is not, it's not far left what I'm going to say to you. And maybe you listening, looking, did not know this, but there is a movie out called The Woman King. I'd like to see Willie and Aaron at the same time, if we could, Nate, on this very important thing that I'm about to say. This is highly important. Viola Davis, excellent actress, is the star and lead of this movie. Have you all heard of the movie Willie and Aaron? Okay, it's another example of how America whitewashes the history and the truth, meaning 2 white women wrote the screenplay for that movie. So while you're tripping, Kim, everybody's, hey, it's Black girl magic. They're rooting on Viola Davis in the movie. But if you know about the tribe of the Dahomey tribe, you would know that they were one of the most barbaric, evil, torturous tribes in Africa. They were the main player with the colonizers in the Atlantic slave trade. Listen to me clearly. This tribe, this African tribe, would go and fight other tribes and do the most heinous things to get them as prisoners of war, and they would sell them to the white men. So every Black American in this country, if your mother and daddy and your grandparents and your great-grandparents were born here in America, the Dahomey tribe probably had something to do with why you're here today. So I'm supposed to go spend my money to see something about a tribe that treated my ancestors worse than anything you can imagine. They would have religious ceremonies and they would behead infants and children and women, 4,000 of them. They were so barbaric, they would cut their jaws from their bottom lip on, cut that off, and continuously do it. So why is it still in 2022? There's a movie out there like that about the Dahomey tribe, which goes back to the stereotypical thing about Charles Booker. Why is it still happening? And why is it that people don't know? I rest my case.
All right. So speaking of violent and racist rhetoric, we did want to touch base on one quick story. We're going to be super quick on this one. I just got to point out that Mitch McConnell got a death threat from Trump and reminded us all why he was kicked off Twitter and Facebook as he envisions Mitch's murder. The predictable thing here is that he did it, right? That it was racist and that it was, clearly kind of this kind of opening the door for his ridiculous followers and foolish followers to, get an idea in their head. Liz Cheney, of course, spoke out against it. Benny Thompson, the Republican co-chair of the House Select Committee on January 6th, he also spoke out very strongly about it. Who didn't say anything about it? Most Republicans, including Mitch, kind of punted on the opportunity to say anything about it. So really kind of crazy to me that Rand is, of course, putting time and energy reminding us about all the endorsements of violence from the left. An actual investigation from the New York Times that looked at recorded threats against lawmakers. Those threats have risen 10 times between 2016 and 2021. We are in a more and more violent age, which is scary. About more than a third of those violent kind of threats came from GOP or Trump supporters against their ideological opponents, while less than a quarter came from Democrats. So there's clearly a divide in who's unhinged out there. But what I will say is that Republicans are leading, and we should all do everything in our power to kind of tamp down the very heated rhetoric that leads people to think that violence is okay, right? I know we're in a super partisan time, but it is really, really important we turn down disarm the hate and turn down the heated rhetoric. So we are super far behind. If you have thoughts about that, please put them in the comments. We are far behind schedule. We got to head to our campaign corner. We're going to check in with two great candidates from Kentucky, from Western Kentucky. We got House District 8 and District 9, Pam Dossett and Bianca Crockram. The amazing thing here, and I did not plan this, but it is really cool that it's happened. Today is International Teacher Day, Teacher Appreciation Day, and these two have both been teachers. We have got Willie, who is also an awesome teacher. So welcome very much to the show, Pam and Bianca, and thank you for joining us, taking some time off of the campaign trail. How are y'all doing this week?
Great. Thank you for having us. It sounds like a very spirited conversation, and I'm glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
Awesome. It's been really well. If you can see the bags under my eyes, you can see how tired I am.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I mean, I read these like campaign updates from these, from candidates and what they're up to, and what a job you guys are. Unpaid, thankless task of jumping in there, throwing your hat in the ring. So let me just make sure it's not thankless. Thank you for doing it. I know it's really important that we combat, what's going on in Frankfort, the Republican supermajority. But let's go and just quick hit. Who are you? What's your backstory? Why'd you get into the race? We'll start with Bianca.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Bianca Crockram, and I am running for District 9. The reason why I got into the race was because I wanted to make a difference. I will say that after my son, our youngest son, graduated from high school, I decided to kind of do a little reflection and look at my next course of what I wanted to do, how I wanted to impact our state and our community. And so did a lot of research. I am a political person. I try to keep up with everything. I'm always voting. I always try to be involved as much as I can. So it was just something that really just interested me. I thought I could do it. I thought that I could make a difference. I love people. I like reaching people. I like talking to people. And I like building relationships. So that's why I ran. I see so many injustices in the education system, of course, but I also see it with our small farmers. I live on a farm. I'm not a farmer. I'm from farmers, but I'm not a farmer. And so, I know some of the challenges that they face. So I just felt like it would be a wonderful opportunity to go in there and do everything that I could do. Just with the scraps that I have, just like many teachers, we'll put it together however way we have to. So I think that it would be important for someone like me to have a seat at the table, to be able to talk with other lawmakers about the realities of what actually is happening. I know there are some of them that are former educators, and they have been so far removed from the profession and the realities of it today that they missed the mark on so many things. And so I don't feel like they're in touch with it. And so I would like to be able to just bring a voice to that area.
That's awesome. And I think we've got, speaking of the area, I think we've got a map of your district. Not, maybe Nate, you can throw that up for District 9. But tell us a little bit about it. Kind of what are you seeing on the campaign trail? And then also, who are you running against? So,
okay. So the person that shall not be named is Myron Dossett. That's who I'm running against. He's an incumbent. So on the map, the gray area that you see is, of course, Hopkins. It was part of Christian County. It is if I'm not mistaken, Pam, say it if I say it wrong. I think I have the west side of Hopkinsville.
It's
is
east.
that right? The east. Okay, so the east side. I can't read maps. So the east side of Hopkinsville and all of Pembroke, all of Oak Grove. And so you have just a very interesting melting pot of people there. Christian County, as I'm sure you all know, we are number 1 in the state for winter wheat and for soybean production, and number 2 for corn in the area of Christian County. And so that is a vital part of our area. Oak Grove with this, booming and busting at the seams with this new gaming and racing facility there in Oak Grove. And we're right there at the door of the 101st Airborne. And then, of course, in Pembroke, my little hometown, we are still thriving as much as we can. We're looking to, get some growth. And unfortunately, we did have some tornadoes that came through and did some devastation there. And so many of the homeowners are still rebuilding in the area. And so as I've been out talking to people, they're wanting change. They're wanting to see something different. I was telling a friend of mine, I just feel this shift, over the past 4 years or 6, if you will. People have really woken up to wanting to be a part, wanting to help make a difference, not knowing how to do it. Some people think you need to be super smart or GT or whatever to be a politician, if you will. It doesn't take that. I think it takes a whole lot of common sense and also some other things. Some degrees would be nice, but I don't think it takes that. I think it just takes a passion and a desire to do it. And so people that I've been talking to in my district are looking for change. They're looking for someone that's going to listen to them, that if they write a letter to them, that they respond, that when they're in session, if there is something being introduced that affects them, they want to know about it. They want to be informed. They want this, transparency. You would think that, that should be a given, right? But it's not. And so many times, people that make decisions for us don't even inquire of us what we think, what we feel, what we want. And so I would like to be a mouthpiece, if you will, and be able to communicate to my constituents and also be able to do what I need to do to help them to get what they need in our district. And not just for District 9, but all across the Commonwealth.
That's so good. Excellent.
Regardless,
so, Bianca, I don't want to cut you off, but
I'm sorry.
So yeah, we got to give Pam a chance as well. So Pam, tell us a little bit about yourself, with your backstory. Is this your first time running, or what made you want to get involved with politics?
I am a 30-year educator. This is my 33rd year in the classroom, and I did run in 2020 against the incumbent. Now, what got me into this was back in 2018, there was an organized attack, I guess, led by Matt Bevin, but we know where, it comes from. The Libertarian, Koch brothers, that whole Bill Mill, the attack on public schools, the attack on the pension system, the attack. Mm-hmm. So that's what really got me into this. I started... they sent me as a part of a delegation to Frankfort to talk to our legislators. They would not talk to me. I had doors slammed in my face. People turned on their heels and walked away from me. I got a great tour of the Supreme Court chambers in Frankfort, but man, nobody wanted to talk about public education or pensions. So what I realized was that, and I don't know about other counties in the state, but I know in Christian County, our public school system is the #1 in single employer. We employ over 800 certified teachers, along with all of our support folks as well. So we were not being listened to. We were not being well represented. So I decided to run in 2020, and then lo and behold, the pandemic struck. And so it just kind of cut my campaign off at the knees. And so I felt, and I only lost by 1,200 votes without the ability to even go out and talk to anybody. So now my campaign looks completely different. And you put the map up. My map is the western half of Christian County, the eastern half of Trigg County, and all of Caldwell County. So it incorporates most of Hopkinsville, Princeton, and Cadiz. So yes, that is my district there. So this campaign looks and feels completely different. I have a completely different district, obviously. And then now I'm able to get out, I'm able to campaign, I'm able to talk to people, make appearances. And so this, and I agree with Bianca, I feel like there is a shift. I feel like people want to be included. They want to be heard. They want you to come and knock on their door. Like there's a little town in Caldwell County, Fredonia. They have 326 people. I've walked twice up there and knocked on people's doors. And one gentleman said, "I'm just glad you came up here. I'm just glad you knocked on my door. And for that, you're going to get my vote." So people want to be engaged. They want to be respected and heard, incorporated into the process. That's what
That's
I've
awesome.
seen. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Well, congrats again on both of you, and thank you for throwing your hat into this ring. And I know it's like a lot of work, a lot of weekends, a lot of evenings while you're juggling lots of other existing commitments. But thank you for doing it. Quick questions. These are very important questions. I want to make sure that every potential voter knows from you 3 things. So, where do you stand on Amendment 2 and choice and reproductive freedom in Kentucky? Bianca, we'll go with you.
I believe that a woman's body is her right. Whatever decision she makes for that, I believe that's between her and God. Excellent. I don't think it's anybody else's, because I'm going to tell you right now, if I were in a situation that was beyond my control and I had to make a life altering decision, I wouldn't want anybody to tell me how to do that.
For sure. For sure.
And so
excellent. All right. So now Pam, Bianca is going to be a great politician. Pam, you're
going to gavel her down on the floor, I bet you.
Can't wait.
That's a prize.
Cannot wait to see it. Pam, all right. Amendment 2, where you stand?
I definitely oppose Amendment 2. I trust women to make decisions about their own bodies. As the mother of 4 daughters, ages 23 to 19, I absolutely refuse to give up bodily autonomy for my daughters. I refuse to do that.
Awesome. All right. So now we've got another question really quick. Where do you stand on the GOP supermajority's efforts to stop Andy, take away his power? Are you going to be pro Andy when you get to Frankfort? We'll go with Pam quick. Oh, yeah, just head nods. Let's just do head nods. All right. And then the third one, really important. Are you pro teacher? Which I feel like that's even dumb to ask, like hearing your backstory. But again, these are 3 issues. I want to make sure everyone knows, candidates who come on our campaign corner, where y'all stand on it. Pro teacher, pro Andy, and pro choice.
Correct.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. So we put in the chat how to get in contact with your campaigns, how to support your campaigns. Kimberly's going to yell at me if I don't give her a chance to say something. But Kimberly, any final thoughts or questions you want to ask these 2 amazing women?
I think they're going to win.
Nice. Visualize it. Let's do it.
Yes.
Get them to Frankfort. I mean, sorry. sorry when you get there, but you said you wanted to do it. So,
sacrifices have to be made. I tell my family that all the time when we have to go canvassing. I say, hey, sacrifices have to be made.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
Good luck in the next month. Let's make this happen. All right. So we do have to move because, we're behind schedule as always. We've got Barbara Hadley Smith next up, who is the current leader chair, of Together Frankfort, which is a wonderful organization. If you've not interacted with Together Frankfort right now, you're in for a treat. They do amazing work. And we're so glad that Barbara can join us to talk about what they're up to in the next month as well. Barbara, how are you? You are muted. Barbara, you're muted.
I'm fine, and I'm really excited about these two candidates you have coming to Frankfort. I'll be there to welcome them.
If you have not watched, I know that Karen is a regular watcher, and there she is. We appreciate Karen's engagement. I know Karen is also active with Together Frankfort, but we have been bringing on a candidate each and every episode, one or two, as we get closer and closer to November. We gotta get as many as we can in. But yeah, I think it's really important that we hear from these folks who want to serve.
Yes. Well, Together Frankfort is, when you feel like people aren't listening to you in positions of power, then is when the grassroots start getting organized. And that's exactly what we did in Together Frankfort. We felt like, our voices weren't being heard. So we had gone to the Women's March, and we were especially frustrated at the outcome of the election in 2016. And so when we came back, we organized this group to mainly get people involved in the process. We really wanted to organize people to register to vote and to gather information that would help them make informed decisions when they did go vote. So that's been our whole purpose. And we've had a whole slew of forums and all kinds of opportunities to provide information on a variety of topics such as dark money and racism and climate change. I won't even give you the whole list. And now we're focused on Amendment 2 and Amendment 1 also. We're having a forum next Tuesday, October 11th at 6 o'clock at the Foundry, which is a building at 317 West Broadway in Frankfort. And the people that are going to talk about these two amendments, we want them to present information, tell them what it's about and what it means. And we have John Schaaf, who was general counsel for the Legislative Research Commission, and he's retired now. He's an attorney. And we also have Dee Pregliasco, who is the vice president of the Kentucky League of Women Voters, and also an attorney. And John will be talking about Amendment 1, where the legislature wants to grab all the power and allow them to call themselves into session whenever they want, taking that power away from the governor. And Dee will be presenting the information on Amendment 2, which is basically going to take away any right to an abortion in the state of Kentucky for any reason whatsoever. Rape, incest, life of the mother, these legislators don't care. They will eliminate abortion. I'm not sure why. Policy, they think it'll advantage them somehow. I don't understand it. There are several efforts going on. I know Kimberly wanted to know, what are we doing about this situation? There is an organization, Protect Kentucky Access, that is working statewide. And the head of that is Rachel Sweet, who headed up the effort in Kansas when they, voted down the restrictions on abortion. So we're glad to have her in Kentucky. And there are our local efforts with Together Frankfort include having this forum. We've passed a resolution opposing Amendment 2. We're asking all our elected officials to also make a stand and oppose Amendment 2. We are in full campaign mode. Some of our members formed a PAC and are doing the normal things like billboards, bumper stickers. We're going door to door. We're using phone banks. We're just ramping up the effort to make these legislators understand we're not going to sit down and take this. 50 years ago, I remember fighting this same battle back in the 70s. I cannot believe at the age I am now, and after 50 years, we're having to repeat it all over again. It's just disgusting.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the approach Together Frankfort takes. It's so, reasoned and rational and research based. So always know that what you guys are sharing is, solid information with experts who can speak to, all the kind of depth of it. Dee from League of Women Voters has been on our show a couple of times on their Fair Maps campaign. She does an amazing job, and any questions from Willie or from Kimberly about Together Frankfort or the events they're organizing?
It was such a thorough explanation. Exciting is all I can say.
Yeah. Well, I agree with the two candidates that you had on, that I think there is a shift, that you can only push people so far. And I think some of the leadership in this state, both on a national and a state level, have just pushed us too far.
I think that is absolutely true. I'm a broken record on this, but I think it's so important that, because Amendment 2 is going to get a lot of attention. People see that it's happening, they hear about it. But if we don't change the legislature, if we don't make gains in Frankfort, they're just going to come back with creative ways to, intrude on these decisions that should be between a woman and her doctor and her family and her faith. So I'm nervous that that there's not enough being done to kind of connect the dots for people. Like, there's a reason that Amendment 1 and Amendment 2 are on your ballot. Right. It's because the GOP supermajority said we're going to make sure that these go into our Constitution. And they think they know kind of the direction it's going to go. I hope it bites them, in the rear end for sure. But yeah, I don't know. Kimberly, any thoughts about that?
I always have thoughts about that. And I just really appreciate the work that Together Frankfort is doing underneath your leadership, Miss Barbara. I mean, it is phenomenal. The work and the passion that you all put into what you do to make change. And I'm talking about tangible change where we can actually see it. And I just speak for myself and so many other women, and especially our young women. And as I said earlier in the broadcast, my daughter is in the Air Force, and she just told me, Mom, I don't think I'm going to retire in America. So, I appreciate what you're doing, and it can help not only other women, but it can also help to bring my daughter back to the States when she retires.
I hope so. And, I have to give credit to the volunteers. We're just a volunteer organization of about 15 coordinators that, have, and everybody's worked really hard. It's not just my efforts that have made this work. Karen Armstrong Cummings was our first president, and she did a marvelous job in getting us up and going, and her enthusiasm was contagious. One of the things in Frankfort, in Franklin County last election, in the primary, we had a 33% turnout of all eligible voters. And that was like second place in the state of Kentucky as far as all the counties. Maybe Woodford was first place, but that's pathetic to have a third of your voters show up and it be something to really laud to other people. People have got to get out there and vote. They've got to inform themselves, and they've got to make their voices heard. So I hope that, you're spurring people on and making them interested in these topics certainly helps. And I hope this, will make a difference in this November 8th election.
I think we all have to do our part, right? And, and it's like, we can all only do so much. We're all volunteers here, I think. I have not paid Kimberly. She keeps asking, and
I know. My, contract negotiations are about to come back up, Aaron.
Well, I want to say something. When I get discouraged, I always think of this Margaret Mead quote, that never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Absolutely. So keep that in mind as you struggle on in your volunteer capacities.
But I'll tell you what, anyone can do anything for a month. So I think we've got a month to go. I want to challenge everyone who's hearing my voice to do something, and to do it every week, or whatever time you can spare, whatever like non critical things you've got in your life you can set aside for a month. Just do it.
Yes,
The outcome, it means so much, right? It can
it
mean so
does.
much. And even if at the end of the day you didn't win, but you fought the good fight and you made that fight better and you got more people engaged with it, that's worth doing for sure as well.
Yeah.
Right. So we got some uphill fights ahead of us, but those are absolutely fights worth having. So,
And we've been told that by the people who've done the surveys and stuff in this particular effort, that the most effective way to convince somebody to go vote a certain way is by talking to them as your friend or your neighbor. You have more influence on your friend or your neighbor than anything else does. The ads, the billboards, the calls from strangers or anything. So everybody can talk to their friends and neighbors, encourage them to go vote, take them to go vote, but everybody can make a difference, a big one.
Absolutely.
that's so true. All right, any final thoughts?
I was going to say, Margaret Mead was the president of the American Sociological Association in the 1930s and was married to a woman who was the president of the American Psychological Association in the 1930s. She's still so provocative that parents get upset when we read her. If a woman can do those things in the 1930s by sheer willpower, we can fight these fights and win these fights.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point.
Not that it feels like the 30s and other elements of our society right now, though.
Oh, well, I don't know.
All right. Well, Barbara, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks
Sure.
again for all the great work that Together Frankfort is doing. We're always here if there are things you need to share. And we've got our call to action each and every week. We would love to feature the events you guys are always putting together.
Great.
So,
Great.
all right. So I think we're going to need to move on to our call to action, and then to close this out, because we are getting awfully close to that hour that I promised you we'd be spending. So first off, our friends at Forward Kentucky, this is our call to action. Our friends at Forward Kentucky put some time and energy in a wonderful new online resource to help keep track of candidates, of endorsements, of fundraising, all the info you need to know over this next month. They've also just added a great list of candidate interviews. We've asked them to update it, but you can find content from My Old Kentucky podcast and Kernels of Truth, figure out which district you're in and who you want to hear from. Again, these great interviews we've just done with Pam and Bianca. We'll make sure those are shared as far and as wide as possible so people can hear firsthand from the candidates that they're going to be deciding on. So yeah, go to Forward Kentucky's Election Central and learn something about these races. The most important thing you can do for this month, though, as I just said it, pick a candidate. Right? Is your state lawmaker in a tight reelection campaign, or do you want to get rid of your current state rep or your state senator? Pick a campaign, do all you can. We are in the closing month, and every hour you can commit matters. Talking to your neighbors, organizing in your precinct, I'm a big fan of it. I think it's really important we get to know our neighbors and talk to them, figure out who kind of leans our way, who's undecided, who wouldn't vote without you getting out there and having that individual conversation. And and even if you're calling that list, or you mentioned that, hey, I live just down the street at X, that means a lot more than somebody who's calling from who knows where, right? So you can also jump on the No on 2 campaign. They're doing canvassing, they're doing calling, they're doing digital organizing. It's all incredibly valuable right now. I was actually out canvassing for Sherilyn Stevenson this weekend. We have had Sherilyn on the show a number of times. She is an incredibly tight re-election race, because those are the only races she has. It's really tight races. She's won by handfuls of votes the first time, I think 3% last year, and then of course the GOP upended her district, changed it a ton, and added in a bunch of conservative counties in precincts in Scott County. So I was just a couple precincts away from mine, knocking on doors, a lot of fired up people about how important it is. I then knocked on a door, and the woman was very non-committal. I had a conversation with her, left her some material, walked away. Her husband was getting out of his huge truck, and he had just maybe it was Sunday, it was like afternoon. He gets out of the truck. I tell him who I am and what I'm doing. I notice he has a gun in his belt, not in a gun holder, not a holster, but just like tucked in his belt, because it's a open carry state and constitutional carry state. But he did not have much time for me, and I was not going to push the point. But as I saw later, as I was heading out of the neighborhood, this is a horrible story to tell, by the way. As I headed out of the neighborhood, he was a very nice man. Just to be clear, he was not polite. He was not impolite at all, not rude. But as I headed back out of the neighborhood, he was putting his no on two or yes on two sign in his yard. So the massive truck, the gun in the belt, and the yes on two sign all added up to, not somebody we should be encouraging to get out and vote. But the rest of the neighbors were all lovely, and I feel like we made a lot of headway. But that's politics, right? We're all allowed our own views on these issues. I feel like our common sense views about choice are going to really carry the day. But, there's a reason the Republicans thought they were winning by putting this amendment on the ballot, right? We saw what happened in Kansas. We are inspired by what happened in Kansas. I think we can replicate it in Kentucky, but Kentucky politics are different. And there's been a long, proud history of, pro-life Democrats. Right. Most of those folks have all become Republicans recently, but I don't know. What do you guys think? What are you fired up about this next month? What do you want to do? And what are you going to do to help carry the day here? What do we do? Kimberly, what are you doing?
I'm going to continue to make phone calls and text folks and, just do what I do best, talk.
And I know walking isn't really an option for you right now. You can't do all the doors you did for Andy in this election. But yeah, talking, you got a strength there for sure.
The 2021 Kentucky Teacher of the Year gave me this advice, which was, you don't have to say yes to everything. I've made it my goal to say yes to everything. Kids in Western Kentucky want me to speak, I'm there. I will go wherever anyone is willing to hear me speak and talk about these issues, because people want to do the right thing. I think people just maybe they've been tired for a while and have unplugged. And I think I can be there to plug you back in.
Absolutely. You're a very inspiring individual, Willie.
Well, Willie, can I have a bet?
What's that?
Can't hear now. Can I have a bet?
Sure.
I need about 5,000.
Whoa, high stakes.
He's saying yes to everything. Ain't nothing funny about the money, baby.
What would you bet on, Kimberly?
To everyone, not everything.
Give me 10 points. He left himself wide open for that.
You're absolutely right. You're
wide open.
Are you betting on election outcomes? Are you betting on horse racing? I know that this, the fall meet is just open up at Keeneland.
You quit being. Look,
she said she was an optimist.
I'm going to have to hood you up a little bit. Like Charles Booker, hood to the holler. I'm going to have to hood you up. A bet means like a loan. Like, give me some money.
What? Bet means loan? I'm confounded. I don't know. Wow. Okay. I learned something new every single day.
Really, Aaron is like my little brother. I love him so dearly, but he was not just confused. There's a point above that called he was confused. Okay. He was very confused.
It's not the first time. It's not the last time. All right. But we've gone over the hour. Thank you both for joining us, Willie. It's always a treat. Kimberly, loved seeing you. It's been too long, but can you close us out, Kimberly?
Oh, of course. Just a really big shout out to Pam and Bianca tonight on House District 8 and 9. Make sure you tell all your friends that live in those areas to vote for them. We need to get those ladies in ASAP. And also just a great shout out tonight to Miss Barbara of Together Frankfort. And, I'm going to give a big shout out to my buddy as well, Miss Karen Armstrong Cummings as well. I know her very, very well. So, and thank you, Aaron and Willie, and of course, our great producer, and that was Nate tonight. Not to be mixed up with Annabelle, okay, but he does pretty good, but he's not Annabelle. So, next week, our campaign corner will feature Dustin Burley, and he's running in the 53rd district. So we're going to have a lot of fun again, and you got to make sure that you're here, okay, next week. Now, let me do the disclaimer that Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State, organized as a 501c4, and we are affiliated with the Indivisible Project and the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement. You guys should know it by now. That is called CAVE. Okay. And then also Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Now, just want to give a shout out once again to Nate Dogg. Now, that's what I call him Nate Dogg. But Mr. Nate Orshan, the music that you hear is an original song that he wrote, and he's got all kinds of great songs. And I know it's been 2 years that he promised me that we were going to do a song together, but we're going to get that done. You know, I'm relentless. You can hear more of his music at NATO Songs. That's NATO songs.com. And then also, if you miss us, you know where to go on Facebook and YouTube to Progress Kentucky. Tell all your friends and family. They'll learn a lot on here that they don't teach them in school, and the mainstream media is not going to tell you. And then also just want to say this right here. Some of the graphic content was created by Couchfire Media. Go check them out over there at couchfiremedia.com. Now, just want to tell you one thing. You know, I say the same thing every week. This is Wednesday night. You made it through hump day. Celebrate the small wins. I made it. Say to yourself, I made it. So tomorrow is a new day. And for the rest of the day, hey, let's go ahead and do something nice for someone. I know that Aaron, he put out a challenge to you. And I'm going to just tighten it up a little bit. You know how we talk to 10 people about voting. 10 people. You know, you talk to 20 people in a day. Talk to 10 people. You know that telemarketer that you don't want to talk to? Yeah, I don't need your services, but I'm going to need you to vote. Okay? Easy. And plus do something nice for somebody this week. It doesn't cost you a thing for a smile or a hello. And we'll see you next week. Same channel, same time. And until then,